Good afternoon and welcome to the Imperial Hotel in Blackpool for continued live coverage of the 2019 World 8-Ball Pool Championships. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The players have been here for nearly 10 days now. We've seen so much high quality pool all leading up to this moment. The men's singles individual final. Number 1 seed, 5 times world champion Mick Hill takes on one of the most highly rated qualifiers we've ever seen reach the final, Dom Cooney, looking to add his name to the Hall of Fame, become one of pool's great, against an opponent who's done that so many times before. Mick Hill came through a tough semi-final against England team player and perennial favourite for the last stages of these tournaments, Carl Sutton. Looked in pretty good form in that match, and I'm sure he'll be looking to continue where he left off. The break's going to be pretty important in this match, and that's not the start Mick was looking for. He split the balls up well, but not much help if the cue ball ends up in the pocket. Dom Cooney had a much tighter semi-final match. He came through 10-9 against Dylan Leary of Northern Ireland in the end. Dylan's an experienced player who's been achieving a lot of success on the UK Tour recently, so shows the kind of form that Dom's in to beat him. Not a face that we've seen so much of at the latter stages of big tournaments, but make no mistake, he's come here to win this, and he won't be overawed by the size of the task in front of him. And this is a pretty good opportunity to start with. Whoever you are, whoever you're playing, you want to get off to a good start, and none more so than when you're playing a great player like Mick Hill, and particularly in the World Championship final. Winning this frame would go an awful long way to helping Dom to settle down. Didn't really look too fazed by the situation in his semi-final. However many other tournaments you've won there, it's pretty uncharted territory appearing in your first World Championship final. You know that how you do in this match can define the rest of your career. Becoming World Champion is one of those things that nobody can take away from you. Perhaps just the first slight sign of nerves. Not that that was a completely routine shot. He was having to try to get the cue ball down to this end of the table. It's naturally going to favour hitting that slightly thick because it helped the position, but just got a bit too much of the ball. I think Mick Hill will come into this match well aware that he's a pretty warm favourite. He's a pretty warm favourite against pretty much anyone in the world, but previous world finals he's played the likes of Gareth Potts and Phil Harrison, who were at the time already world champions. It must seem like on paper it should be a more straightforward prospect playing a qualifier who's appearing in his first world final, although there was a bit of an X factor about people who haven't got here before. Some people freeze in the headlights, but some people really come out all guns blazing. In a way, there's not the same pressure on Dom Cooney. I think everyone in the arena thinks he could win, but I don't think that many people here think it's the most likely outcome. Most people know that Mick Hill has pretty much owned this tournament for the last few years. What Dom's got to be careful of is not giving Mick too many chances. Mick's got a big powerful break and will clear a number of frames without Dom having a chance. Frames like this where he does have the opportunity to get in first, it's particularly important that he makes an impact. And particularly in the early going in the match, even if you're Mick Hill, there's bound to be some apprehension when you come out for the first frame, so gifting away an opportunity like this is not an ideal situation. It's not absolutely perfect, he's just got this one long shot down the left hand side of the table which will define how this frame turns out. If he makes this, which you would firmly expect him to. Not that easy to see where any problems would come from. And so many times knocks it in like it's pretty much over the pocket. Always very positive the way he plays those shots. You see some people who would get a bit tentative and just try and roll that ball in. Not so Mick, he knows you've got to keep positive, time the ball, accelerate through the cue ball. So, all looking fairly straightforward. This is the kind of normal service that we've come to expect from Mick over the years. Just this black then stands between the defending champion and getting the first frame on the board. Black safely down. Mick leads Dom Cooney by 1-0.
Frame 2, Dom Cooney to break, training by 1-0. Time running.
Dom Cooney then to break in frame 2. Did have a chance in the last frame, which he let slip off the dry break from Mick. It's a good way to make amends though. Pretty solid break with one of each ball potted. Do you think he wants to get off to a good start here? Mick is a real front runner. The kind of player you just don't want to end up too many frames behind. It just becomes too difficult to task to get it back. Almost any player in the world is susceptible to some pressure, even the multiple world champions. So if Dom can just get himself together, clear these up and then start looking to lay down a marker that he's here to play. I'd say it looks very calm. Most good players do, because you can't be over emotional. It just doesn't really work to tie yourself out. But he looks very relaxed. He looks like he feels like he should be out in this arena and that he's up for the job, which he absolutely should be. He's beaten some good players along the way. He's also won a lot of matches along the way. The fact that there's a Q next to his name means that he came through the qualifying section even once we'd got to Blackpool. So the seeded players and the top representatives from each country's teams go into the main draw. The rest of the qualifiers then battle it out for a place in that draw. So you just win a number of extra matches before you even really get started in the competition properly, which can be good or bad. You can get match sharp, but it's a long week. We played up to the semi-finals just over a week ago. Then in the meantime the World Masters and the World Team Championships has been happening, and as we usually do, we've saved the semi-finals and finals for these final stream stages taking place yesterday and today. And this is good stuff from Dom in this frame. Reasonably straightforward layout, but the ball still had to be made. Right now he looks like that shouldn't be a problem. So, looking very assured around the table, making light work of this frame. It's a breaking clearance from Dom Cooney. He levels the scores up. It's 1 frame apiece.
Frame 3, Michael to break, 1 frame all.
If you're just joining us, you're watching live coverage of the men's singles final in the 2019 World 8 Ball Pool Championships. I'm Mark Shepherd. I'll be with you throughout this final, bringing commentary as Mick Hill takes on Dom Cooney. 2 frames played so far, 1 on each side of the score sheet. Well, not the start that Mick Hill was looking for in the breaking department. He went in off his first break, come up dry in his second one. Dom Cooney did almost clear up off Mick's first break, but fell just short before then clearing off his own break. Over the years we've seen a number of very high quality world finals. Certainly be expecting to see a lot of first visit total clearances. That's a nicely struck shot by Dom. It's very easy when the ball's close to the cushion like that to jaw it. He hit that absolutely dead in the heart of the pocket. He also seems to have a fairly straightforward approach to the game. It gets down and plays the shot, not too much messing around. Should be in for a pretty quick final, I think. Both because the players like to get on with it and also because they're both likely to take out a fairly high proportion of first visit clearances and early clearances, so I don't expect this to descend into too much of a tactical game unless the situation absolutely demands it. Just seeing the England team lift yet another world team title this morning, defeating what turned out to be a very gallant comeback from the French. They were 4-0 behind at one point and it looked like England were going to run away with it before France got themselves back into the game. Got it back to 7-all at one stage before ultimately succumbing. This is one of 2 finals we've got going on in the main arena. Table just to the left of shot is where the ladies' final is taking place. Sharon James of England is taking on England compatriot Amy Beecham. Sharon, former runner-up, came up just short in last year's final. Amy Beecham, a former winner of the event. So a lot of quality on display on that side of the arena. And a lot of quality on display on this side of the arena. Oh, great shot. Dom had got himself into a bit of trouble there. Unexpectedly potted 2 balls in one shot. The shot before that, but that's got things back on track. Going to need another good shot here, though. Well, very close to another double.
Red ball's in play.
That one slightly got away from him. In fact, he would have been partially snookered on the black even had he got that far. So, much like the first frame, a little bit of a gift-wrapped opportunity for Mick Hill. Doesn't really need to ask you a second time from these kind of positions. Referee we see in the background standing there, Matt Ward. Big moment for him as well. Always a real honour to be asked to referee the World Championship final. Something of a thank you for all the work that he and the other referees have done all week. These two individual finals being refereed by Matt and Claire Watts, refereeing the ladies' final on the other side of the arena. A number of other top referees though that we've seen working hard all week. John Hope, the senior referee, done a sterling job holding it all together. George Bradbury, Richard Rhodes, John Chapman, a number of others that we've seen on the stream stages the last couple of days, plus so many people doing stuff behind the scenes. Front and centre though is this man, Mick Hill, who is going about his business with the usual skill and attention that he's delivered for the last few years. World champion for the first time in 2004, 15 years on, is still every bit as good a player as he was, and many would probably say he's a better player now, more complete all-round player. Had a few years when he wasn't playing so much 8-ball, but been back with a vengeance in this championship for the last few years. With a vengeance in that frame. So that clearance after the missed ball from Dom Cooney. Mick Hill now ahead by 2 frames to 1.
Frame 4, don't get into break, running 2 frames to 1. Time running.
Dom Cooney then to break in frame 4. Cleared off his break in the only other break he's had in this game, so be happy enough to do that again. Very solid break, you'd have to say. He did the single most important thing on the break, which is to get all the power into the pack. Didn't have the white flying around the table like you sometimes see. Don't always have to hit it at breakneck speed, but it's just a question of making a good contact with the pack, splitting the balls up well. It's a red ball that's gone down. Could probably make a case for going for either colour from here.
30 seconds. Red ball's in play.
Sticking with the reds though. Well, it's just after a delicate cannon there. I think that maybe even a little more delicate than he wanted, although still should be okay. One thing he certainly doesn't want to get into in this match is getting in first and then gifting opportunities to Mick Hill. He's given away a couple of chances in the last 2 frames, and that's another one. A little bit unfortunate to pot that ball, although he was always getting close to that corner pocket. This is almost the fear factor you have when you're a multiple world champion. You see quite a lot of matches like this where people embark on finishes against Mick knowing that they've really got to go for it, but then somehow come up short, and he just seems to be given these opportunities. Not that he needs any inviting, he's more than capable of making his own opportunities. Things going with form in both finals, if you want to put it like that. Amy Beecham, who's the slightly higher seeded player in the ladies' final, is 2-0 up against Sharon James. Not a great deal to choose there. Amy Beecham's the number 2 seed and Sharon's number 3. Over on this side of the arena, Mick Hill, of course, the seeded player, the number 1 seed. Dom Cooney, not seeded this year, but certainly going to be rising up the rankings with performances like this. Our first shot didn't come off quite as Mick had intended it. Still in decent shape. It's got that yellow tied up with the red in the middle of the table. Reflection of the fact it's a slightly more difficult clearance that makes feeling the need to take a bit more time over this one. Got a good angle to cannon into the cluster now. That's a sign of a player in good form when you're playing those cannons just at a gentle weight. Sometimes see people who are chasing a frame a bit more, they end up rushing into stuff a bit too hard. Just end up creating other problems or knocking balls safe. There's a real control about the way Mick plays these days. He's had a similar experience to this. He played Nigel Clark in the 2015 final, who was in a fairly similar position to Dom Cooney. He was a known player, but not a big name. Had a really good run, got through to that final. Mick ultimately winning 11-5. His opponent in both of the last 2 finals, though, has been Phil Harrison, who's not only a good friend of Mick's, but a very experienced player, a former world champion himself, and a prolific tournament winner. So this is a slightly different situation from that. Seems a long time ago now, 2004, when Mick won his first title. Beat another good friend of his, Darren Appleton, in that final. Appleton, who had a prolific 8-ball pool career before turning his attentions to other forms of pool, went off to play 9-ball and 10-ball in the States for a while. Achieved enormous success at both of those. Mick Hill, meanwhile, achieving considerable success already in this final. Now leads by 3 frames to 1. So Mick Hill to break off in frame 5. Not been the best first 2 breaks, in off the first one and dry break the second one. Let's see how number 3 shapes up. Well, better is the answer. Balls spread out across the table pretty well. Red ball finding the pocket. The only difficulty really, the ball's nearest the top left-hand corner pocket. Everything else in pretty open positions.
3, 6, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 4, 1.5.
You'd expect over the course of this match that we'll see a fair few clearances by both players from their own breaks. Dom Cooney's had 1. Mick yet to open his account with that particular statistic. But the more important statistic is that he's leading by 3 frames to 1. And It's that one that gets you access to the trophy at the end of the match. So selecting the red balls because that one were the more accessible ones. Almost played the perfect opening shot. If that ball had rolled just a couple of inches further, Mick would be in absolutely prime position now. Finished up a little bit awkward though. He's got a pot on the one to the top right hand corner still, but he's going to have to find some alternative for cannoning into the yellow and red that he's just hit. Sometimes see a slight look of exasperation in moments like this where he's ended up knocking a ball into the wrong place and the clearance isn't quite as easy as he'd have liked. But generally exudes a real confidence and control around the table. Apologising to his opponent, which suggests that he's left this ball onto the right centre pocket. He hit that last shot pretty well. It wasn't absolutely as played. He was trying to hit that cluster. He ended up scooping behind the red and smashed the yellow out of the way. It wasn't quite what he was expecting. He didn't really intend to end up behind this red ball. You always need a bit of luck though when you're playing those cannons. All you can do is put yourself in the right position. So, delicate little one into the right centre now. Everything just got a bit congested there. The white suddenly turned up when he didn't want it, got in the way. So for the first time in this match, the table turned over mid-clearance to Dom Cooney. I think this is the kind of frame that he needs to be winning. He certainly wants to be winning some first visit ones off his own break, but anytime he's offered an extra bonus opportunity like this, he really wants to make these ones count.
30 seconds.
So, good plant to open things up with. All the yellows pretty accessible, no need to move any of them. Just a case of negotiating the white around the table, trying to keep in good position. It's been pretty steady with that so far, seems to have good control over the white. And that's a pretty good positional shot. Not always that easy to judge those ones where you're playing off multiple cushions. Looking to get the two yellows at the top of the table out of the way first. This one that he's about to pot next, the one that's on the balk line, easy enough from where he is, but a little bit covered by that red, so he'll be happy enough to get that one out of the way. So, ball safely deposited. White moving quite a lot there, but always knew that he was going to have a choice of pots. Looks like the one to the left centre is the only feasible option, so we'll take that and then go for the one in the right centre next, probably. On the whole, it's easier if you take balls out in areas. You don't want to be zigzagging up and down the table more than you can help. So electing to finish things up at the top of the table. Now he can come down for these last two yellows. All fairly straightforward. He just needs to leave himself relatively straight on the last yellow, the one that's near the black spot. He'll take to the right centre pocket. Then the black naturally hanging there waiting for him. So it's the kind of clearance that when you're playing well and you're a good player, looks fairly easy. It's tempting to say that he's just kind of rolling these balls in, but actually he's only doing that because his position of play was very good in that clearance. So, a rare miss from Mick Hill invites Dom back to the table. Pulls one back. It's now Mick Hill 3, Dom Cooney 2.
Frame 6, Dom Cooney's break, trailing 3 frames to 2. Time running.
Dom Cooney then to break in frame 6.
Foul.
Wow, big powerful break, a lot of balls going in. Of the 4 balls spotted though, one was the white. Mick wasting no time in concluding that the yellows are his ball of choice. The advantage of having ball in hand, even though you only have one shot, is that you can set up the cue ball wherever you like for the first shot. So that difficult one, or that one that could have been difficult to get to on the baulk cushion, he was able to remove. 4 balls down this end of the table are all in pretty open positions, so should be plain sailing enough from here. That's the difference when you hit the break just off straight. The last break Dom caught absolutely perfectly. The cue ball just came in a almost dead straight line up the centre of the table. It was never going anywhere near any pockets. That one just got to be a millimetre or 2 out. The cue ball was always tracking at one side of the table, which is how it came to get kicked into the corner pocket. Always makes these shots look very effortless. He's very confident with slightly longer shots. Not that this shot is particularly difficult, but there are players that would prefer to get even closer to their work. Mick's able to not overcomplicate the position, just leave himself whatever mid-distance shot is required. So just screw up in a straight line from here. He's done that bit, screwed a little bit further than he needed to, but no problem still. Nice controlled shot to get onto the black. So that in off, ultimately proving costly. Mick Hill again ahead by 2 frames. He now leads Dom Cooney by 4 frames to 2.
Frame 7, Mick Hill's break, leading 4 frames to 2. Time running.
Mick Hill went to break in frame 7, currently leading by 4 frames to 2.
Ball boxing.
Another big powerful break. Only the 1 ball down, but all of the balls moving around, spread out nicely. First glance, it looks like yellows will be the better option here.
Yellow ball's nominated. Second. Yellow ball's in play.
Didn't have to try and move that ball, but decided it was worth promoting the one on the right hand side cushion. Trade-off for that was he didn't quite know where the white was going to end up, so he's now got pretty awkward queuing for his next yellow.
Second.
Made that look so easy. Those kind of shots where you're queuing over a ball, particularly where you're having to play quite a long shot, there's just a number of complicating factors about that. You're playing a longish shot slowly. If you don't catch the dead middle of the cue ball, you end up swerving it. It's so easy just to put a little bit of unwanted side on. Mick found the centre of the cue ball perfectly there. So back in close to prime position. A little bit thinner on this yellow than would be absolutely perfect for getting position, but still plenty of options open. The remaining yellows all clustered fairly closely together, so not going to need to travel too far with the cue ball. Hard to see too many problems from this position. Just needs to keep tight control of the white. Starting to build up a head of steam now. 2 frames ahead already if he was to add this one as well, as it looks for all the world like he's going to do. Starting to leave Dom with a little bit of a deficit to chase. Pretty hard man even to keep pace with, never mind actually overtake, so Dom certainly doesn't want to leave himself too much work to do. So just keeping everything very controlled and straightforward at the moment. Just off straight on this yellow, so you can just run the white through for the black. So currently looking like he's just practicing down his local club, but that's the advantage of having 5 world titles already. So that black safely deposited. Michael goes ahead by 3 frames. He now leads Dom Cooney 5 frames to 2.
Frame 8, Dom Cooney to break.
Not quite panic time for Dom Cooney as he steps up to break in frame 8, but he is now facing a mounting deficit. He doesn't want this lead that his opponent's developed to grow any further. And the break that had seemed so rock solid at the beginning just slightly sheared off the front of the pack there. Went in off to the top left hand corner last time, went in off in the middle that time, which is almost a worse mistake because it suggests you've not really caught the pack straight. Messier layout though on this occasion. Not saying Mick won't clear up from here, but it's a little bit more to think about. The last dry break from Dom left a more routine finish than this one. Even without seeing the scoreline, you kind of know Mick's ahead just from the amount we've seen him recently. Feels like he's been the man at the table for most of the last few minutes. Good choice of shot that. The cue ball was just coming a little bit to the right. When that set off, it was on a line that was absolutely perfect. It was going to catch that cluster of two reds on the top or just to the left. Ultimately the spin just started to take a bit of effect as the ball slowed down, which is how he ended up on the right hand side. It's just hampered his positional options and forced him into this safety shot. The touching ball was very helpful to him there. It meant that he was able to play away, get a much tighter snooker than he would otherwise have been able to. So good news and bad news for Dom. He's back to the table a little bit quicker than he might have expected, but not in the most attractive of positions. Easiest yellow would probably be to hit would be just to come off the right hand side cushion. Looks like he's going for the one just above the left middle pocket. So contact successfully made with the yellow, and actually pretty decent outcome from Dom's point of view. Not the yellow in front of the red, so that offers a little bit of defence against Mick clearing up at this visit. Not something you see very often. Mick was just about to strike that ball and just a moment of doubt crept in. He just caught himself before he delivered the cue and decided to get up and reset himself. It's always the right thing to do, of course. There's nothing worse than being down on a shot and having any element of self-doubt in your mind. So the red on the right hand side of the table cut up towards the top right pocket. Giving this plenty of thought. He's got up and down a couple of times for the last couple of shots. Well, that was close to perfection. He's quite nudged that red far enough. Hard to overstate just how difficult that shot was. Even the pot wasn't entirely straightforward, but having to play it in such a way that he made contact with that red that he's just hit as well. To play with side on the cue ball. If he can pot this clean, this is going to be a glorious opportunity. Just Well, what a high quality finish this is shaping into. This is the kind of thing Mick does. Some of the shots don't even look that difficult. You're looking at these thinking, well, he's played a sort of natural cannon there, but the shot before last was anything but a natural cannon. To really guide the cue ball and just playing with so much control with all of these shots as well. So looking likely to be a 6-2 deficit, which Dom Cooney is now facing. This best of 21 frame match. First man to 11 will be lifting the World Championship trophy. Some illustrious names on that trophy. The name of this man, Mick Hill, appears 5 times. 3 times winner Gareth Potts. A number of other top players that we've seen over the years, so you're in pretty esteemed company once you get to that point. Right now though, it's the defending champion who's marching towards retaining his title. Mick Hill now leads Dom Cooney by 6 frames to 2.
Frame 9, Mick to break, leaving 6 frames to 2. Time running.
So Mick Hill to break off in frame 9. Enjoying a 4 frame lead for the first time in the match. Struggled a little bit with his break at the beginning of the match, but had an excellent last break which he cleared off.
Red balls in play.
Got so much movement in the balls that there are more balls in bulk than there are in the entire bottom half of the table. Not a completely routine position this, even though the balls have moved around a lot, they've migrated into some slightly awkward positions. Red's mixed choice. He's looking at playing this red into the 2 reds that are together on the baulk cushion. I'll tell you what, that wasn't far away. That was a pretty advanced shot. See that he's got most of the balls opened up, all but one of them would have potted had that red dropped. It's been nicely on the one at this end. This is the kind of position that isn't that welcome to face at any stage in a match, but it's particularly unwelcome when you're a number of frames behind and looking to claw your way back into contention. The kind of opportunity that's just difficult. Yes, you're at the table, yes, in theory you've got a shot at a couple of things, but what are you really expecting to make happen from here? So many of the yellow balls are in safe or semi-safe positions. Not even that easy to play any kind of containing shot. Takes the sensible option and at least tries to secure one of the pockets. There's a version of events where Mick manages to clear up without needing to use that pocket, but at least it makes life a little bit harder. No need, of course, for Mick to go for anything until he's good and ready. He's in a pretty secure position at the moment in this frame.
30 seconds.
Just electing to develop his only tied up ball. Also electing to push everything towards the top left hand corner to mitigate against the fact that the top right is covered. The pocket that Dom would love to get control of is the top left, because there are so many reds around there. If he could engineer some way to get a ball over that pocket, that would dramatically change the complexion of the frame. Might consider trying to do that. He could, not on this occasion. Well, that's a very bad outcome. Wondered if he might consider potting that ball and then bringing the cue ball back into the centre of the table with a view to covering top left afterwards. A little unfortunate that that ball dropped. For a moment it looked like it was going to stay, but even if it hadn't, I think the position wasn't really getting much better for him. He was buying time at best.
30 seconds.
It's not too much of a disaster, the fact it's gone in the sense that it wasn't really blocking access to that pocket. It wasn't particularly valuable in that sense, but now means that he's going to have to find a different safety shot.
Foul. 2 minutes.
Mick will be alive to the concern that Dom might try to cover the top left-hand corner pocket at some point. He wants to make sure that's not on the cards. Just one slight vulnerability you have if you've got a number of balls near a pocket. If you suddenly lose the use of that pocket, it gets a bit tricky. Red's still very much in the ascendancy though. So going for the positive option. Not really the result he was looking for. If that cue ball had run through that gap, he would have a choice of balls, but where it is, options pretty limited.
Second visit.
As we've seen so many times, he's found a way though. Suddenly, from looking like he might have been in trouble, he's got the table completely in his mercy. This final now starting to look pretty one-sided. Tom Cooney's not done a whole lot wrong. Just how do you contain a player that plays like this? Every time he comes to the table he seems to manufacture some kind of opportunity. He's already won 3 world titles in the last 4 years. Could make it 4 from 5 in possibly less than an hour's time. That's what we're currently playing. So Mick Hill now extends the lead to 5. Leads Dom Cooney by 7 frames to 2.
Frame 10. Tom Cooney to break. Trailing 7 frames to 2. Time running.
Tom Cooney then to break in frame 10. Currently facing a pretty sizable deficit, so what would he give for a good break here? Well, it's an awful lot better than the last two at least. He's been in off the last two breaks. Done the two important things, which was to keep the white on the table and pot one of the coloured balls.
Red ball's nominated.
So yellow ball potted off the break, but red his choice.
Open table.
When you take the ball you haven't potted though, if you don't pot it, it goes back to being an open table. So Mick comes to the table, able to still to select whichever balls he likes, reds presumably. Nothing more painful than that. You move one of the difficult balls, end up missing it, and then you pass the table over to your opponent to clear up the colour you wanted, and with the benefit of you having opened things up for them. It's pretty much all one-way traffic for Dom Cooney at present.
Red ball's in play.
He's facing an absolute barrage of breaks from his opponent. Mick can't believe he's playing so well at the moment that even what is actually a fairly difficult cannon like that, he can't believe hasn't turned out perfectly. One of the few shots that he's played that hasn't turned out close to perfect. So it looks like whatever plans he had to clear up at this visit are going to have to go on ice for a moment.
Yellow ball's in play.
And this is where the game gets so difficult. Dom's missed a half chance on his last visit. Now he's coming to the table with a not even a half chance. This is just a really thankless position he's in at the moment. Played a decent enough shot though. He's got that yellow well enough in front of the red that it doesn't pot to the top left corner. It may only be a temporary respite, but he just needs to get his way into the match at the moment. That's the thing about pool compared with other sports. At least in tennis, if you knock a ball out, you're still in the court and you can still play the next shot, whereas with pool, sometimes you make a mistake and you're just frozen away from the table for a long time.
30 seconds.
So, Mick's got the choice either of the double or potting the ball into the left-hand centre and trying to disturb the red that's tied up. A few enthusiastic shouts from the crowd, may well be relating to the seniors team match which is going on just behind the seating arena here. Though you can't see it, there's another 8 tables behind where those people are sitting. So the double mixed choice just escaped him. Still not a perfect opportunity, but this really is the kind of chance where, even if he's not going for a clearance, Dom just needs to tighten things up, just get himself some table time. I think in his head he must be fearing the worst. You'd like to think that any player that's good enough to get through to the World Championship final still believes they're in with a chance of winning it at any stages in the match, but it's a little bit hard when you're 7-2 down to quite have the self-belief that you can actually win it. I think at this stage you're probably just thinking more about keeping things respectable, getting back in the game. Queuing pretty well still though, there's no signs. This match hasn't been lost by him missing a load of balls, it's just been not having enough chances. Nice little touch on the red, just corrected the path of the white to exactly where he wanted it. This would be such a good frame to win. 7-3 is hardly an ideal scoreline, but at least you keep yourself in it. The players will have the option of a brief mid-session interval after 10 frames, so at the end of this frame we'll probably see them both come out of the arena for a quick break just before the halfway point of the match, theoretically. So, did well to hold himself together there. Dom Cooney pegs one back. Hill now leads by 7 frames to 3. We'll be back with commentary when the players return to the arena.
Frame 11, Gill to break, leading 7 frames to 3. Time running. Ball spotted. Yellow ball's nominated. 30 seconds. Yellow ball's in play. Red ball's in play.
So very quick intermission, players straight back at it. Scoreboard just lagging behind slightly at the moment, but as we saw just before the interval, Dom Cooney did pull one back, so it's currently 7 frames to 3. Could do with trying to get a couple more back. The longer he can keep Mick away from the finishing line, the better. I mean, stating the obvious, of course, but if he can keep him 3 or 4 away, at least he gives himself a bit of breathing space. What he doesn't really want is Mick getting towards 8, 9, 10. Suddenly any mistake proves really costly. It's just hard to play your best pool at that point. looking to cut the red all the way down the table. I think he's hit that too well. That might go in. Oh, well, that's perfect. That could not be better. At the moment it looked like he'd hit it so well it was just going to drop in, which would have left him in no man's land, but that's... You see Mikhail's been tapping both sides of the table repeatedly. He's pretty impressed by that. Well, this has really given Mick something to think about. Not very often you see him running up against the time limit for a shot, but he's going to be using most of his 60-second allowance here, I think. So ultimately a little bit rushed, slightly running out of time, having thought through the options. Played a good shot though. Wasn't by any means a formality, that shot he's just played. Haven't really seen much tactical play so far. There hasn't really been any need for it. One or both of the players has found themselves with a clearance in every frame. Make it a little bit more often than Dom, but both have looked pretty lively once they've been in amongst the balls. This is the kind of frame that could, in certain circumstances, end up taking a bit longer. Once you get each player with a pocket covered, there can be a bit of cat and mouse deciding what to do. Well, going for the positive option, hard to fault that. It didn't quite play out as he expected, but he potted Mick's ball, which was the main thing, and the red is broadly the one nearer the pocket. So actually, I've said this too many times in the match, but this really isn't a great position that Mick's facing. He's got several yellow balls in pretty awkward positions. In fact, none of them really pot in a very straightforward way. So even though he's got two shots here, options a bit limited. I'll look to return the favour. Play a deliberate foul back against Dom and cover this bottom right hand corner. Yep, so it does go with the deliberate foul. So, one ball completely tied up, a couple more not in perfect positions. Love to pot this double. This would be so helpful if it went in. That's a brilliant shot. So helpful that actually dropping rather than staying over the pocket, because it means he keeps the two visits should he need them. In fact, everything about that shot really could not have played that better. He's released the difficult ball, potted the ball he went for. He's left himself, he may even have left himself a little bit of an angle to get up the table towards the last one. Ooh, high quality shot. As I say, this would be a good frame to win. 7-4 would at least be, not only would it be a respectable scoreline, but it's a little bit of a basis on which he can kick on. Still feels like he is in the match at that point. 8-3 would start to feel really like he was just playing for respectability. So, wants to get the job done here. Well, in fact, that ball didn't pot. I thought it did go past the black into the middle. No great harm done that it didn't, but he can't miss another ball. He's got to pot this one. The shot is not a gimme, it's just off the cushion. It's just enough to make it difficult. Well, did everything bar go in. From Dom's point of view, that's obviously a big shame. The difference between that ball falling in and resting on the lip is potentially quite big. May well come back to the table. This is not by any means a guaranteed clearance from Mick, but it's a chance that you'd rather not let your opponent have. It's also going to feel like a bit of a free roll for Mick, this one. This was a frame that in his head he may have written off already. Looked like his opponent might be about to clear up, but been given a second chance. It's a reflection of how well he strikes those balls. It's so easy if you get just slightly off centre to cannon into the other ball. He hit that so cleanly that he just screwed nicely past the other ball that it was near to. Also, didn't seem to be putting too much effort. You see people play those shots and they're throwing the whole arm at them just in a desperate attempt to get enough spin on the ball. You just lose so much accuracy as a result. It just strikes through the ball so purely, there's no need for that. Both of these players actually pretty good cueists. Not that that's a great surprise when we're talking about the final of the World Championships, but everyone has different facets of their game. They both strike the ball nicely. Well, that was one of the less controlled shots we've seen from Mick in this final. Not, of course, anywhere near where he intended to end up. It wasn't like he was trying to smash into the black, but just caught it slightly wrong. Likely to content himself with a safety shot now. The advantages of going for a clearance are rapidly diminishing given where the blacks ended up.
30 seconds.
Another well-struck shot. A lot of players would have contented themselves with just rolling into that ball, but he did need to screw back a couple of inches to make absolutely sure that he'd covered the red on the top right-hand corner. They're surprisingly difficult, those shots, to play as well over distance. Sort of short screw shots, so you're not trying to move the ball very much, but you still need a bit of spin remaining on the ball when it makes contact. It's not the most difficult escape, and in other circumstances you might well play to just come off one cushion and pot the red that his hand's nearest to at the moment. The problem he's got is that even if he does get onto the last red, the black just isn't in a very accessible spot. Still, he's done all he can. He's got quite a lot of angle on this last red. Well, in fact, he may even be snookered by the jaw. This would be very unfortunate. There's a bit of a discussion with the referee about whether or not he is snookered off this ball. Feels like it could be quite an important frame, this. Big difference in scoreline, and it's a frame that Dom's had a good chance of winning. His options there were fairly limited, but really put any sustained pressure on. It should be easy enough for Mick to play a safety shot from here. No easy snooker, but away was the more positive shot to play because he's got all of the yellows into play. The pressure that's on Dom is that it's very hard to leave the cue ball in any position where you're not leaving a potted yellow. There's also a time where 60 seconds isn't really long enough to think through all the possibilities. Going to have to play the shot relatively soon. So time ticking away. You have to make up his mind and commit to something. Well, not a terrible outcome. He's going to find himself in trouble though. If Mick doesn't feel he wants to go for anything attacking, they're very easy to play a snooker from this position because that red is so well guarded. Big shouts from the senior team final going on just behind the arena. Quite perfect that shot. He has left the edge of the red. Not that the edge of the red is hugely useful to Dom. Very frustrating, this kind of position where you're just chasing a single ball around the table. The amateur analysis of a pool game is often that having less balls on the table means you must be in a better position. This is the exact opposite of that situation. If he had a few more balls, he'd have a lot more options. Again, having to make fairly full use of his time allowance. The referee there glancing at the stopwatch. Well, what a shot that was! He came within an inch or two of knocking the black on as well. That would have been a phenomenal shot. It's a bit careless from Mick to leave that edge. Ended up leaving the potting angle of that ball. Dom's going to have to pull out another monster shot though. Got a wry smile on his face. He knows that he's just pulled out one great shot, but he's really going to need another one. This is very do or die. He's going to leave a shot at a yellow if he misses. So he's just got to find some way of potting this ball. Don't know if he can play a cross double, if he can get the white out of the way quickly enough. And that triangle is very close to double kissing this. You have to play the white across the face of the black. So close, but not good enough. Well, it's going to be a heartbreaking frame. Dom's played some great stuff in it and had a couple of opportunities where it looked like he was going to win. Looks highly likely though that Mick is going to close the frame out. Although that is not what he wanted to do. If you're going to make life difficult, that's about as hard a place as you could find. So, not quite as routine a finish as he might have expected, but just this long yellow required. Sets up the simple black. So, painful frame for Dom, one that really did get away from him. So instead of the score being 7-4, it's actually 8-3 in favour of Mick Hill. He's now just 3 frames away from victory, from lifting his 6th world title.
Frame 12, John Cooney to break, trailing 8 frames to 3. Time running.
So, John Cooney to break in frame 12, facing a big mountain in front of him if he wants to lift his first world title. He's still 8 frames away from the winning line, his opponent's only 3. Good break though, split the balls up nicely, potted a yellow. The last frame was one that he could realistically have won on a couple of occasions, but for various reasons didn't. Good chance to make amends here. He's had 1 clearance from the break in the 2nd frame of the match. Hasn't been quite such a prolific run of clearing from the break as we might have expected so far in this final, but been a lot of good quality clearances whenever they've come in the frame. Hasn't been a great deal of tactical play apart from the last frame. Just this one mid-distance shot really is going to unlock the frame. This is the only shot in this clearance you could imagine is going to be a missable one, and it's not one he should miss. No mistake, so sets up simple last 3 balls. So having to force an angle there, actually had to play a slightly more difficult shot than it looked to force that angle, but done it perfectly. So quick fire clearance from the break from Dom Cooney. Quality clearance at that, so he pegs 1 back. Mikhail now leads by 8 frames to 4.
Frame 13, Mikhail to break, leading 8 frames to 4. Time running.
Mikhail then to break in frame 13, currently leading by 8 frames to 4. Cue ball tracking towards the corner pocket, but ultimately it was the black that went down. So, as we were, balls will be re-racked by our referee Matt Ward, and we'll start again.
Mikhail to break again, no penalty. Time running.
So, attempt number 2 at the break. Cue ball tracking towards the same corner pocket again, but again has stayed on the table, as has the black this time. So just the one yellow ball potted, but everything's split up pretty well for Mick.
Red ball dominated.
Could make a case for reds or yellows, but reds are his choice.
Red ball in play.
On the face of it, this looks like it's going to be a pretty quick and straightforward clearance. Not really a lot of work to be done in terms of developing balls, just a case of keeping close control of the white. So in the last frame, Dom had a clearance from the break. Mick's had one earlier on in the match. Be happy to add a second here. Edging closer to that finishing line. 11 frames is the magic number, that's what he needs to win. He's pushed quite hard in last year's final. It was only 11-8 against Phil Harrison. It looked like Harrison might just get the job done. He had to play the whole way there in previous years. It was 11-6 against Phil Harrison the year before that. Back in 2015 he defeated Nigel Clark by 11 frames to 5. Were he to go on to win 11-4, that would be his biggest ever winning margin in a final. Not that that's a particularly significant statistic. I don't think that's one that will concern him too much compared with the 6th world crown that he's potentially going to be able to lift this afternoon. You never quite know how much those records of multiple titles matter to people. Some people put a different importance on it. Often people play down how much they care about winning multiple titles. They say they're happy with one or two, but I think deep down everyone does enjoy the quest for more and more, and certainly Mick's a competitive guy, which is why he comes back here every year and works hard to win this championship. Right now, he's only 2 frames away from winning it for a 6th time. He now leads Dom Cooney by 9 frames to 4.
Frame 14, Dom Cooney to break, trailing 9 frames to 4. Time running.
So he cleared off his last break. Can he do the same off this one? Dom Cooney 5 frames behind and only 2 away from defeat, but still looking pretty composed as he breaks off in frame number 14.
Open table.
Unfortunately failed with a small detail there, which was to pot a ball. Pretty frustrating given the 2 balls are so close to the corner pockets. But it's Mick Hill that's going to have a first look at these balls. Still an open table, so he can choose either colour. He's obviously going to want to be reds, but he can, if he wants to play a plant, he can play this yellow onto the 2 reds.
30 seconds.
Slight look of annoyance as he ends up with a cannon that he wasn't looking for. Even at 9-4 up, he's still seeking perfection, as I guess he should be. No point being satisfied with second best. Well judged plant that. Played it a sensible way as well. Quite easy. You see a lot of people trying to just play that shot directly, but the ball was quite a long way from the pocket, so playing it cushion first just made it much easier to judge and gave a bigger margin for error. So actually now back in pretty good position. The ball that's closest to the cue ball looks like it pots to the right centre, and then there's a pocket for all the other balls. So this could be the frame that Mick Hill needs to get onto the proverbial hill, only one frame away from victory. Shall update you on the score from the Ladies World Championship final. Sharon James and Amy Beecham are tied at 4 apiece at the moment. They're playing a best of 15 match, so they're each just over halfway to the winning line. Looks to have been a closely fought contest on that side of the arena. This match right now is looking like it's going to be finished considerably earlier than the latest match, because Mick Hill only needs 2 for victory, and one of them appears to be laid out on the table in front of him. Just slightly underdone that one. Uncharacteristic positional error that. He had quite a big margin for error. Just wanted the cue ball a bit further to the right as we look at it. That would have just made a comfortable shot. He could have just rolled the red in, had the white naturally coming down the table. It's actually quite thin here. He's now going to have the cue ball moving around a lot. It's going to be hard to control with absolute certainty where he finishes up, considering whether he might come up and down the table and cannon into the black on the way back up. It's alright in theory, but it's very hard to be sure you're going to cannon fully into a ball. If you were to slip off one side or the other, you'd be out of position. So, how does he judge this? I'll tell you how he's judged this. He's judged it close to perfect, but has he knocked it far enough? That was such good judgment. The fact that his body language would suggest that he has snookered himself too much even to bend round for this red to the middle. Wow, how important a moment could that be? Doesn't seem like it should be too costly. 9-4 up. Obviously he'd have liked to get it to 10-4 here and now. Not the same pressure on him though as there is on his opponent. So can he get enough swerve on it to pot this ball? Characteristically, not really a very well hit shot that. Still, I think he can be forgiven one minor error with a tricky swerve shot after the quality we've seen so far. So big moment this for Dom Cooney. There's no excuses here. If he wants to win this world title, he's got to clear these balls up. He's not going to get any better chances than this, and he's not going to get any more chances than this. He's actually made very few out-and-out mistakes. It's just been the lack of opportunity that's cost him in this match. When he's been in on a clearance, he's generally looked fairly consistent. Win or lose, you obviously want to look back on any world final and believe that you've given a good account of himself. He's had 2 clearances from the break already in the 4 frames that he's won, and 2 other decent clearances, so I think more than past that bar already. But no one comes to a World Championship final wanting to make up the numbers, so next priority of course is to get himself back into this match and give himself an opportunity, even if it's a long shot, of winning it. Still striking the ball well. It's not actually looking like he's under very much pressure at all. If you were to Look purely at his demeanour, you wouldn't say this is a man that's 9-4 down in a World Championship final. Looks pretty much the same as he did at the beginning. Still striking the ball nicely. Also still playing with a good tempo. Sometimes you see people get a bit nervous and slow down, but none of that. Nor conversely, as he started rushing, he's just kept it steady the whole way through. So, unexpected positional miss from Mick Hill, and what looked like it was going to be the clearance to take him up to the magic number of 10 and 1 away from victory. Dom Cooney keeps himself in the match though. It's now Mick Hill 9, Dom Cooney 5.
Frame 15, Mick Hill to break, leading 9 frames to 5. Time running.
So, Mick Hill to break in frame 15, currently leading by 9 frames to 5.
Ball's potted.
Another powerful break as we've seen throughout.
Ball's in play.
3 balls deposited on this occasion. No thoughts of going for a clearance though. Mick selecting the reds and just rolling it behind one of them. So our scoreboard is just a frame behind at the moment. We'll get that updated momentarily. It's Mick Hill 9, Dom Cooney 5. I think at least having got to 5, Dom Cooney will feel that he's played a material part in this match. It's by no means been a completely one-sided contest so far. Having got to 5, it's now a question of whether he can press on, or maybe not even whether he can press on, whether he gets the chance to press on. Even though he's got a reasonable lead, Mick, as you can see there, isn't going to rush into anything silly. He wants to get this match won. Well aware that his opponent is more than capable of getting back into it. That's the kind of thing that comes with experience. You don't win 5 world titles in top gear the whole time. Mick's been in not far off top gear for most of this match, but when there isn't an easy clearance to go for, no point pushing the issue. Screaming from the senior team final. Update on the scores from the other side of the arena. Amy Beecham now ahead again by the odd frame. She leads Sharon Jones by 5 frames to 4. So that match also reaching the business end, although Amy still 3 frames away from victory and Sharon 4, so plenty more play left in that match. Plenty more play potentially left in this match if Dom Cooney gets the chance to get back to the table. The deciding factor in this frame is going to be the cluster of balls at the top left-hand corner. neither the red nor the two yellows pot at present. Slightly underdone that positional shot. He was trying to leave himself thin on this so that he could play a cannon on the balls he's looking at now. He's left it quite thin, but in a way it's not the worst thing. At least when it's thin you can get plenty of power onto it. So he's going to try and come up and down the table and cannon into the two yellows that are next to his red, top left. Uncharacteristically missing the pot there. That's the kind of thing that is very easy to do when you are focusing on a particular cannon. You end up taking your eye off the ball you're potting. It's not normally something you could accuse Mick Hill of being guilty of, though. So, got to try and make something happen here, Don Cooney. That doesn't necessarily mean go for something that isn't on, but at least tie the frame up or do something. He's hanging on in there at the moment, but needs to start motoring. It's not enough just to keep pace with Mick anymore. He needs to start adding the frames quicker on his side of the score sheet. So he too looking at what a cannon would look like into the reds and yellows. Not quite so straightforward to cannon the two yellows out. It'd be very easy to end up with at least one of them still stuck in that corner. How's his luck? Done pretty well. Decided to hit it off the baulk cushion because that was a better way of developing both balls, and he has developed both balls. It's just a question of whether he's got a pot on now. Looks like you can see the yellow to the bottom corner pocket, and he's played that well. So, still showing no real signs of nerves or a lack of composure. No stage in this match has he really looked like he's been outclassed. At no stage in this match really have you been able to tell the scoreline from the face of either player. Both have kept a fairly solid countenance the whole way through. Inside, of course, he'll be feeling a degree of pressure, as will Mick. No one's completely immune from it. So, this plant is basically all he needs. If he can just roll this plant in, keep the other yellow in play, the white will naturally be coming on and off the left-hand side cushion. Well, he played that very firmly. I fancied he might play it a little bit slower than that. Good to be positive with a shot. That's the first shot he's played, for me, a little bit harder than he needed to. I can understand he was trying to play it as a positive shot and not just drop into it. He wanted to make sure he did get the yellow that he hit into play afterwards. I just felt a little bit firmer than he needed. Very understandable though, of course, the pressure of being out there. We'd all be feeling a little bit of adrenaline. Still anybody's frame at this stage, even though Mick's the player at the table. These reds not perfect. The one on the left-hand side of the table on the baulk line going to be a little difficult to do anything to, which is why he's opting for this shot. This was a bit of anguish that Dom ideally could have avoided going through. If he'd have just cleared up the frame when he was last at the table, things would have been a whole lot easier. As is so often the case, once you miss one shot, things just start getting harder and harder. Still not in a bad position though, because I don't think that red goes past the yellow. I think that's what Mick had come to have a look at, the red that the cue ball is nearest to. If it doesn't go past the yellow, then Dom's got a little bit of time to figure this out. That's a pretty sensible shot. He's got everything in play now, whereas Mick looks to have one ball tied up. Depends whether he can do anything with the yellow, with the red to the left of the black. It's a very high quality shot if it's a total snooker. That was not an easy position to get tightly in behind that red. It's obviously very close from the fact that the referee is spending so long looking at it. It's Matt Ward officiating this match. Struggling to make his mind up. He's having to use a spare cue ball to help him judge the shot. The one thing that's for certain is that if it's as close to being a total snooker as this, it's going to be very hard for Dom to hit the ball. It's basically going to mean that this shot isn't on to just directly hit that yellow. So trying to bend the ball. Quite close to that red, so going to make sure he gets around the red obviously first. Hit that a little too hard for that to take effect. When you're trying to bend the ball as much as that over a short distance, you have to. It's a tricky balance. You have to play it quite slowly in order to give the spin time to take effect. He got enough spin on, it's just it was still skidding across the cloth, so it never really had time to bite until after it had passed the yellow ball. Not that it was in any way a straightforward shot. I'm not suggesting that it was easy, but unfortunately for him, he's now given 2 shots away.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Well, I have to say that is a very uncharacteristic mistake from McHill. He obviously felt that that red went past the yellow. That's a pretty bad error when you've got 2 shots. It's one thing not to clear up, but to gift your opponent straight back to the table with 2 shots of his own. Dom looking to cue down on the cue ball. I'm not sure that would be the thing you wanted to do. I feel like he might be better just rolling this in. Well, he's kind of just set it up. Felt like he was digging down with the view to playing the shot with a bit more power, which definitely didn't look like the right way forward. Anyway, he set it up nicely over the corner pocket, so just needs to roll this yellow in, and the cue ball will naturally be coming up towards the centre of the table. So, a frame that could have gone either way, one of the scrappier frames of the match. Both players had their opportunities, and both players would have felt a bit aggrieved if they were the one that lost the frame. Dom Cooney pegs one back though. The lead is down to just 3 now. McHill 9, Dom Cooney 6.
30 seconds.
9 frames to 6. Time running.
So as John Cooney steps up to break in frame 16, the lead, or the deficit in his case, down to just 3 frames. A great break there. Ball's just queuing up to go into the top pockets. Look where these yellows are finished. He's spotted 3 of them already. The remaining ones are hanging around pretty close to pockets for the most part. So suddenly, for the first time in this match, it actually looks like Dom could have a realistic shot of getting himself properly back into this. A couple of frames ago it looked more like he was playing for respectability than for out and out winning the match, whereas now he's given himself a chance, although has to be said in saying that he's not giving himself too much of a chance in the way he's playing that positional shot. Had a big margin for error, just needs to end up somewhere in the middle of the table. He's come a fair bit too far. May still be able to manufacture this plant, but made life harder than he wanted to. Yeah, and that's the reason it was harder. It wasn't that it was hard to pot the plant, but the cue ball was always drifting over to that right hand side. He was never going to be on the ball at the bottom of the table, and really he wasn't that likely to be on the ball at the top because that red was always going to be in the way. So, forced to come on and off the left hand side cushion. Has he got enough side on? Ooh, almost. Well, no great harm done. He's still in control of this frame. I think there would definitely be the neutrals in the crowd would have been rooting for that ball to go in, because 9-7 and we'd have had a real match on our hands. That would be as close as Mikel has been pressed in any of the recent finals. I was saying earlier, Phil Harrison eventually got to 8 last year. Like he could get himself back into it. Certainly not looking as one-sided as it was a minute ago, though. There was a passage in the middle of the match where Mikel won 4 frames in a row and it looked like he could run away with it. Not quite so much so now, he's having to work for the frames. Mikel's still going about things in a positive way. Going for the attacking option so far in this clearance, or so far in this visit to the table. Even for a player of his quality, this is a fairly awkward position he's facing. Doesn't really have pockets for all of the reds. There's certainly one on the right hand side cushion that he doesn't have a pocket for apart from a double. This one he's going to have to play as a double. He's just come a little bit far there. He was looking at playing the middle of those 3 reds, I think, into the right centre pocket. Slightly overdone the position. It would be a massive finish if he was to make it. He's never really looked like this was on from the position where he came to the table. Hanging on in there. This is the kind of thing he can do to you. These clearances where you just think, well, surely going to be back to the table, but actually it's not a certainty anymore. So he's got a perfect angle off this last red if he wants to move the one on the right hand side cushion. This has been a very controlled clearance so far. Oh, brilliant from Mick Hill. Worthy of a world champion. This has been a phenomenal finish. He's just never looked on when he came to the table. They haven't been big power shots either, it's just been delicate controlled shots around the top of the table. Tom Cooney must have thought that this was going to be his frame on at least a couple of occasions. Suddenly though, what could have been 9-7 has turned into 10-6, and suddenly it's all starting to look quite comfortable for Mick.
Frame 17, Mick to break, lead 10 frame 6.
So, on the brink of victory now, Mick Hill steps up to break, leading by 10 frames to 6 and needing only one of the remaining 5 frames to lift his 6th world title. Cue ball almost kicked into the corner pocket, but still staying on the playing surface. 2 yellows down off the break and 1 red.
Red ball's in play.
Do you feel that last frame, when Dom Cooney let that opportunity slip, snookering himself with 2 yellows to go, that might well be the deciding factor in this game? If you'd have got the score back to 9-7, you could have seen there being a bit of a game on, but it's very hard to imagine Mick not winning one of the last 5 frames, and that's all he needs to do to claim the title this year. Dom, by contrast, is going to need to win all 5 of the remaining frames. So, could this be the end of the road for Dom Cooney? What a run it's been to this final. Incredible story, a qualifier coming all the way. What a run it's been for Mick Hill. Let's not forget that in the quarter-final against Adam Davis, he was facing the very real prospect of getting knocked out, only to come back and win 10-9 in the deciding frame in what was a heartbreaking moment for Adam Davis, who looked like he had that match in the bag. But like all true champions, he's pressed on from that and taken his chances when he needed to. Dom Cooney's played his part in what's been a high quality final, but ultimately Mick Hill's had just too much for him, and when he pots this black ball, he will secure his 6th world title. Black ball down, Mick Hill's done it. What a performance. Dom Cooney steps up to shake hands with him. Pat on the shoulder from Mick Hill. That's been a great performance the whole way through the tournament. He's been as dominant as he always is in this tournament. Mick Hill's had to face some adversity along the way, as I say. Got run very close by Adam Davis, but did what he needed to in the end. And let's congratulate warmly Dom Cooney for the performance in getting to this final. He's beaten a lot of good players along the way, and he's won a lot of matches, coming all the way out of the qualifying section to get into the main draw and then fighting his way through to the final. I'm sure this won't be the last time we see him in the latter stages of this tournament. Big congratulations though to Mick Hill, who's done the job, And let's also say a big thank you to everybody who's been responsible for putting on this production. Yvonne Armitage and Stan Grant have done so much this week to bring you this live streaming the whole way through. Thank you to them for everything they've done. Thank you to you for your company throughout this year's tournament. That's the end of our coverage of the men's match. The ladies' match, Sharon James is leading 6-5 at the moment, so do tune into that to see the conclusion of that best of 15 match. Thank you for your company with this one. Goodbye for now.
Congratulations go to Mick Hill, Men's World Champion for 2019.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, I thought we should. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's not my road.
And the team